Hi, everybody. Today is Sunday, October 2nd, 2022. This is Nathan Weens, the apprentice nutrition detective, and this is health update number four. Four. Been doing this for over 2 months now, which is kind of strange, but having fun, and hopefully you're getting something out of this as well. All right, so let's get to it. Um, So the last video, I talked a little bit about being sick over Labor Day weekend, and lasted a couple of weeks, and then I was feeling better. Uh, Within a few days after that, I had a big bile dump, and it was. I'm wondering if it might have been the space weather. I know Dr. Smith's been talking about that a lot. Um, had a fair amount of reflux, which is usually an indication for me that I'm having excess bile because I have the extrahepatic cholestasis. So even though I was eating pretty good, I wasn't eating a bunch of crap. I still had quite a bit of reflux during the night, and then the next morning had a big poop that was very dark green, which is pretty unusual for me. So, and we talked about that a little bit. I know somebody posted about that on the network, and also I think it's something that Dr. Smith talked about in the Inner Circle on Friday. This dark green poop is actually a good indication you got lots of bile in there, kind of old bile. So apparently I dumped a bunch of bile, and right after that I felt much better. So I was still having some problems with my ears being a little bit plugged. So um, I got my little spray bottle kit out, and my wife actually kind of took over for me. So she had a great time cleaning out my ears. She's got a um, little fiber optic camera that's got an attachment that's got a little scraper on there. So she used that to help clean up my ears, and quite a bit of stuff in there. So yeah, I feel much better than I did a couple of weeks ago. Sort of back to my normal self. Um, Not much change in weight. I've been eating a little bit better the last couple of weeks, so that's been helpful. Um, I have a blood donation scheduled this coming Friday, October 7th, I believe, and that'll be my third since my first tests. So I will be I'll go ahead and wait a month after this. So beginning of November, I'll do blood and hair testing, and then as soon as I get those results, I'll make a longer video with all that information on there. So I'm interested to see how I'm doing, what changes are going on, particularly my ferritin. I mentioned before that that's pretty high. The other thing that I've noticed in terms of my health is I talked a little bit about that I was taking extra molybdenum for for kind of a lingering case of athlete's foot, or some dry skin on my left foot, and that's actually continued to improve slowly, as a lot of times these things do. But it appears that the molybdenum might have helped some. So obviously, this stuff tends to take a long time to happen. Particularly with things like fungal infections. So I'm just going to kind of see how it plays out, and figure, over the next month, it'll hopefully continue to improve. And then at that point, it'll be a month or so after I stopped taking the molybdenum. So I'm interested to see what happens at that point. But yeah, it's fun experimenting on myself. So, and I know it's something that most of you do as well. So that's pretty much it for the for my health updates. More kind of everything's usual. Nothing too weird has been going on. I am getting ready for I I'm studying karate and getting ready for a promotion test here in a couple of weeks. So doing a little more of that, not doing as much of the kettlebell stuff, although I find that if I do the kettlebell exercise in the morning, I tend to have more energy throughout the day. So also trying to keep up with that. So I did want to talk a little bit about exercise. It's obviously not something that's directly related, but certainly it's health related. So I'm not a gym rat. I'm not a muscle head. I know Dr. Smith's talked a lot about the fact that he really is. He loves to exercise, and used to be a personal trainer, and so never really been like that. Obviously, I was in pretty good shape when I was in the military. Not so much anymore. I'm trying to get back to that as much as I can. But I'm also 53 years old, so it's a little more challenging. But my recommendation, my advice on that is, regardless of what kind of physical condition you're in, try to do something. Try to get up and move around. Our bodies were not designed to sit and do nothing. And obviously the causes of our obesity epidemic, the increases in the amounts of chronic illnesses that we've seen over the last 30 or 40 years have lots of factors. I mean, there's not a single thing that you can point to. There's many things that seem to correlate with it, including the introduction of glyphosate, dietary guidelines for Americans that the government put out in the late 70s, early 80s. The fact that we're doing much less physically than we used to. I mean, think about it. 50 years ago, not that long ago. I mean, people were far more active than we are today. They didn't have the kind of labor-saving devices that we have today, so they had to do more. 200 years ago, they were far, far more physically active because they had to be. Had to go out and chop wood, build a fire to cook food and heat the house, and so our bodies are not adapted to being sedentary. So get up, take a walk if you can. If you can't, stand up, move around your living room. If you can't do that, pick up your feet, wave your arms, do something. The more you're capable of doing and the more that you can do, the better off you're going to be. The other thing about exercise that I've discovered, because it's not something that, I have an inherent love of, is that I had to find stuff that was interesting for me, that engaged me, that was fun. So, and I think that that's important for everybody who wants to, continue exercising and have it become part of their lifestyle, is to find something something physical that they enjoy doing. So for me, it's always been, I've always loved martial arts. It's fun. I love the interaction with other people. It's mentally engaging, and for me, it's a form of moving meditation. So it has lots and lots of benefits. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should, join a martial art, but find something that has physical activity associated with it that you enjoy doing. Because the more you enjoy it, the more likely you are to do it and to continue to do it. So, thus endeth the sermon on that. So the other thing that I want to talk about, this one's going to be a little bit longer, probably closer to 15 minutes than 10, because we're coming up on 10 minutes now. One of the things that Dr. Smith has mentioned kind of here and there and talked about a little bit is, stuff to cook in. Because I'm the one that does a lot of the cooking in the house. I was in the restaurant industry for about 15 years, so it's something that I know a lot about. I love to cook. I love to eat, which is why I'm the size I am right now. I've always loved to eat. It's something that, my family has kind of instilled in me. But finding good vessels to cook in is kind of a challenge. So obviously aluminum is a really bad choice. Anodized or not anodized, it's bad stuff. Same thing with nonstick, the Teflon, PTFE, all those things are, you don't want to be ingesting that stuff. It's toxic. Stainless steel, I was doing some research today just to kind of get a little better idea of about this before I talk to you about it. There's lots of toxic metals, including chromium, that go into the making of stainless steel, and it appears that can actually leach into your food from the pans as well. So, and then one thing that I know Dr. Smith has mentioned a few times is that cooking with cast iron is not such a great idea because the iron can leach into your food as well. And that's the one I wanted to do some more research on, because I've used cast iron in the past, and actually one of the things that I use a lot these days is this, which is a carbon steel pan. So it's not quite the same as a regular cast iron. It's a steel, so it does have some carbon in the metal, and but it's similar in the fact that when you get it, you take it, you put oil on it, you heat it up to season the pan, basically forming a layer of carbon on the surface of the pan that then acts as kind of a non-stick surface or a less sticky surface. And, you do this with cast iron as well. So I wanted to do a little research, and unfortunately there's not a lot of information out there about this. The little information that I did find kind of went along with my own thoughts on the matter, and that is that if you're using cast iron or carbon steel or one of those surfaces, that if it's seasoned, if it's got that layer, that kind of carbonized layer on it, that it's much less likely that the iron is going to get leached into your food. The studies that they done were actually on acidic foods like tomato sauces. Probably less an issue for most of us because acidic foods are things that tend to have a lot of vitamin A in them. So I suppose that's one of the benefits, is that we're less likely to be cooking acidic foods. So that's one of the things they did, acidic versus non-acidic foods, and what they found was that the acidic foods tended to have more iron in them. But there was only one experiment that was done, and this was actually done by a group called Cooks Illustrated. They have a magazine. They got a cookbook, which is really good. I recommend that. They've got a TV show on PBS, and they do basically scientific experiments with food to try to find, to try to get more information about what works and what doesn't. So, actually not a bad source. And they were the only ones that did a study that I could find that compared unseasoned to seasoned cast iron. And what they found was that the seasoned cast iron produced a lot less, or had a lot less iron in the food, in the tomato sauce. So, and nobody really knows exactly how much iron is getting into the food. Basically, what the articles that I saw said were that you shouldn't depend on cast iron as a good source of iron in your diet, which in my mind says it's probably not very much. So for our purposes, that's actually a good thing. We don't want a whole bunch of excess iron. So it appears, I can't give you the definitive answer because I don't think anybody really has one. that if you're using a well-seasoned cast iron or carbon steel pan, the chances of you getting a bunch of iron from the pan itself are pretty low. You're probably not getting very much iron. So a couple of other things that I really like. One is this Lodge. This is an enamel-coated cast iron pot. And you can get other cookware that's enamel-coated, which is basically a ceramic coating. Which is inert and, shouldn't cause you any problems. That one I've had for probably 10 years and you can see it pretty well used. Oh, got a friend here, a little moth. Anyway, so those are some options for cooking safely. Obviously, these are natural, we're just talking about iron or steel or ceramic. So if you're wondering, well, what should I cook with if I can't cook with stainless steel, I can't use nonstick, I can't use aluminum, what other options are there? Those are some other options. So I'll put, there's a bunch of different types of pans. I think this one is a Matfer, Matfer. I'll put a link to it in the description. This is a 10-inch pan. I've got a 12-inch, which is one that I use a lot more. It's got a little more surface area. They're not that expensive. They're about, I think the 12-inch is about $50 or $60. But once you get it seasoned and as long as you take care of it, it'll last literally forever. So just like cast iron, I'm sure a lot of us have, grandparents that, grandmothers that handed down cast iron skillets to us that have been used for who knows how long. So that's pretty much it for today. Please let me know if you like this, if you enjoyed it, if the information was valuable to you. I think I'm going to start branching out a little bit and not just doing the updates, but talking about some other subjects that that I think might be helpful for you, not just nutrition stuff, but some other aspects of wellness or health in a broader sense. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great week. I'll talk to you in a couple weeks. And again, thank you very much for watching the video. Take care. Bye.